Out front tonight, Trump knew. CNN reporting exclusively tonight that the National Archives is set to turn over 16 records to the special counsel, and that these 16 records show Trump and his advisors were well aware of the proper process to declassify documents. And as we know from the results of the raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago, that process was not followed. The National Archives records directly contradict Trump's main defense, which again and again has been that he has unilateral authority to declassify documents.
One of those is the special counsel's investigation into classified documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago. Why did you take those documents with you when you left the White House?
I had every right to under the Presidential Records Act. You have the Presidential Records Act. I was there and I took what I took and it gets declassified.
My question for you, though, when it comes to documents, do you still have any classified documents in your possession?
Are you ready?
Do you?
No, I don't have anything. I have no classified documents. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them. But
no,
why?
You have to declassify
Let me ask you.
The Presidential Records Act actually states clearly, quote, the presidential records automatically transfer into the legal custody of the archivist as soon as the president leaves office, right? So this one's extremely clear. But the reporting tonight that Trump knew is a significant development in the special counsel's investigation, which by many accounts appears to now be wrapping up quickly. Ty Cobb, Trump's former White House lawyer, a regular guest on Out Front, and one you'll hear from in just a moment, has long said here, if you've been watching, that the special counsel's probe on classified documents could wrap as soon as May, and that Cobb expects a criminal indictment against Trump. Now, I'm going to talk to Ty in just a moment, along with John King, for the political impact of all of this. But first, more on this exclusive reporting from Paula Reed in Washington. Paula, what else do you know about these records that the National Archives will turn over to the special counsel? I mean, it's incredible to take a step back here and say there are 16 documents.
That's right. More and more documents the special counsel is fighting to get. And according to this letter that was obtained exclusively by our colleague Jamie Gangel, the archives reveals that these 16 documents, these are records documenting communication between the former president and in some instances his top advisors, laying out the when, why, and how you go about declassifying records. And that is significant because we know from our reporting that the special counsel is investigating, possibly charging multiple crimes, including the possible mishandling of classified documents. And in order to do that, you would need to establish that someone knowingly took these materials without going through the proper authorization. Now, the former president and his lawyers, they have put forth multiple, sometimes conflicting explanations for why he took these documents down to Mar-a-Lago. He has said that they're automatically declassified because he's a former president. He's also said that he had a standing order to declassify them. His lawyers have also separately argued that the problem was the process, and some of these materials were inadvertently packed up. But depending on what these records show, I mean, this could undermine all of those defenses if they can show that the former president was on notice of the procedure and knew that it applied to him. And the special counsel may need to wait a bit to get their hands on these documents. I'm told that it is possible the former president's lawyers may appeal this decision, file for a court intervention here. They have not been very successful trying to keep this kind of evidence from the special counsel, but I'm told that they may do it anyway just to try to protect constitutional and presidential protections.
All right. Paula, thank you very much for all of that. I remember the one time, I don't know if everyone watching remembers, when Trump said, I just have to think about it. I just have to imagine it, and they're declassified, right? I mean,
not a thing.
Not a thing. And now, amazing as you're reporting, Jamie's reporting, that he knew that. So let's go now to Ty Cobb, the former Trump White House lawyer, as promised. So Ty, you and I have talked so many times, and you have been clear again and again that you believe this case is a very serious threat to Donald Trump. And we're talking specifically the Mar-a-Lago classified documents portion of the special counsel's investigation. Just last week, you told me, I quote you, Ty, I think the Mar-a-Lago case is teed up to go almost any time. I wouldn't be surprised if it dropped later this month. Well, this new reporting seems to be right in line with your timeline.
Thank you, Aaron. Always great to be with you, and congratulations to Paula and Jamie and Evan and Zach on their reporting. This is a significant event, particularly given the fact that Trump did not go to court initially to prevent this, and that the archives turned it over merely on the request of the Justice Department. This is all governed by a case called United States versus Espy. But the SB criteria are set out in the letter that transmitted these documents, which is they're important to the grand jury and they're not easily found elsewhere. So it will be not much of a legal hurdle for the special prosecutor to prevail if Trump does indeed take this to court. On the timing, I think this is I dotting and T crossing.
Yeah.
I think that this case is ready to go. I think there is a possibility that the obstruction case may be broadened to go ahead and include the Espionage Act counts and the illegal possession of the classified documents, given the extent that, and solely because of the fact that Trump keeps lying about what the law is. And they may decide that it's important enough for the country to fully grasp that. They don't need that to prove the obstruction. Trump could be right that he can declassify these things between foot massages, but the reality is that's just not the truth. The simple truth is there is a process. Apparently, 16 different government officials reminded him of the process that at least impacted them. And he totally ignored that and believes that the mere fact he took them declassifies them.
So it's
that's
amazing,
not
though.
the law.
What's interesting
Yeah,
also,
go
Ty,
ahead.
that you're saying obstruction, but that you also think they could choose to go further to include espionage to make the point. So what do you think the actual charges will be, and in them, would Trump be looking at jail time?
So I wouldn't, if it was me, based on my own prosecutorial career, I would not necessarily expand the case to try to prove the Espionage Act piece of it, because there's so much evidence of guilty knowledge on the espionage piece that all they really have to do is show that Trump moved these documents at various times when DOJ was either demanding them or actually present, that he filed falsely with the Justice Department, had his lawyers file falsely with the Justice Department an affidavit to the effect that none existed, which was shattered by the documents that they then discovered after the search, and the many other misrepresentations that he and others have made on his behalf with regard to his possession of classified documents. So I think this obstruction case is a tight case, and yes, I do think he'll go to jail on it.
All right, and just very quickly, go to jail. Could this be wrapped up before the 2024 presidential election, or no?
That will be very difficult. I don't see a way that gets wrapped up before the election. Of course, I don't see any way that Trump, notwithstanding his many diehard supporters who may get him the nomination, can possibly prevail in a general election, because independents, they may not have thought much of the events in New York with Alvin Bragg. I think some have, focused in a little bit more on the Carroll case.
Okay.
But everybody will be watching if the feds come after him, and the feds are coming, and I think they're coming fast.
All right, Ty Cobb, thank you very much. I really always appreciate it. And I want to go now to John King.
I do too.
All right, and so John, of course, anchor of Inside Politics, but interesting when you hear Ty's analysis that Trump's looking at jail, that the charges are coming, and now, of course, interesting, right? He had a take on how this would affect the race. How do you think a potential indictment of Donald Trump by the DOJ, right? The feds are coming, and they're coming fast, as Ty says. How would that affect the GOP race for 2024?
The legal conversation is one thing. The political conversation happens, Aaron, as you know, for years on a very different track. I reached out today to a handful of Republican strategists, one very close to Trump, the others people who wish Trump to varying degrees would go away yesterday or last month or last year or before. They all answered with the same answer. I'll read you one of them because they were all very consistent. They don't care. All caps, don't care about these investigations, no impact. So you have the legal case just laid out clearly by Paula and by Ty Cobb, but politically, you've seen his poll numbers increase over the last several months as he was indicted in New York, as the E. Jean Carroll verdict came down,
right.
as there have been other special counsel news in the press. And so Now, some of that's because Trump has dumped a ton of ads, and his super PAC have dumped a ton of ads on Ron DeSantis. So that's not the only explanation.
Yeah, I saw one of those a few minutes ago.
But he has this base in the Republican Party, and there's been this conversation since the Access Hollywood tape, or since he said Mexicans sends their rapists, all the things he has said, the horrific things he has said about women and more. Will there be some cumulative moment, right, a straw that breaks the camel's back and breaks his spell on the Republican base? We've had this conversation since 2016, and Republicans say it's just wishful thinking to think that's coming. They all say the one way it might come. Will there be somebody credible in the Republican race who consistently makes the argument against Donald Trump? Not he's a distraction, not we need to win, but who actually raises the specifics. And no Republican yet has shown the courage to do that consistently.